Galway were crowned Electric Ireland Minor All-Ireland Hurling Champions on Sunday, beating Kilkenny 3-14 to 12 points. It's Galway's 11th minor title since 1993 and of course their third in a row. We're going to chat to their manager Brian Hanley in a few moments, but first let's have a look at the nominees for the Player of the Week. Sean McDonough was once again the star. He scored 2-8 at the weekend and was named man of the match. McDonough is leading the poll with Galway fullback Owen Lawless and wingback John Cooney also in contention. There's one game left in this year's Electric Ireland Minor Football Championship as Cork take on Galway at 1 o'clock on Sunday, the 1st of September. And we're still working through Electric Ireland Minor Jubilee 15. We're down to the half-forward line. The polls for those positions are live now. So there you go, 10, 11 and 12 need to be filled. Pick Noel McGrath there at number 9. That was a good harbinger for him last week. So Jason Flynn, Shane Long and Richie Murray. Shane Long is winning that one. Proves the power of celebrity and the tip fans out in numbers. And then a few more there. So Richie Power romping home. Kieran Murphy, Fraggy and Niall Burke is in third. Richie Power with 77% there. Richie Power's at the game at the weekend, sitting close to me and looked like he could easily have togged off for Kilkenny. And Cian Lynch is just ahead of Tomás O'Leary for our left half forward position, 63 versus 38% in that one. Now, let's move on. I'm delighted to say that Brian Hanley is with us after having successfully guided the Galway Miners to a third title in a row. Brian, how are you doing? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Cordings.
Yeah, pretty good. I'd say a lot of people will remember you, Brian, as the Galway man in charge of Westmeath from a couple of years back. It's been a circuitous enough route for you back to this point, and yet I can't imagine you've had many better days than Sunday. I
know, it's kind of look at things happen, away from the game, they keep you away from it, but last Sunday was great, and it's great for Galway Hurling, great for them lads, and it was nice to win last Sunday.
I read a great quote from you about how this wasn't the biggest day in these players' lives, that they'd already shown they were going to have a long hurling career ahead of them, to kind of just relieve a little bit of the pressure for them in the build-up to the match.
Yeah, well, you'd like to think so, because I've heard people on about that, this is too much pressure with them at this age, and I don't buy into that. I think pressure comes from within, and we wouldn't have, I believe any minor management team wouldn't do that at this age, and that's for later on. It's great for them to enjoy this and enjoy it and understand their failings, understand their mistakes, and learn and develop as players.
How do you communicate that to the players? Is that something that was kind of always part of when you're working with minors in particular? Because it's very easy for them to get caught up in the size of the moment or the size of the event at any stage of the competition.
Well, it's the same for any team at any age, really. But I don't think, experience will teach you that even yourself when you're playing that you've got to understand what you're at and what you're doing, and understand your good things and the bad things, and develop and develop into the huge thing at this age, and understand going forward how to make things better. And look at the big thing for me and for the Galway minor management this year is that the pathway to play senior hurling for Galway, and whatever it takes, and winning last Sunday, losing last Sunday was irrelevant. It was the development on that.
What was the year like for yourself? What's the difference between managing a minor team like Galway from managing a senior team like Westmeath?
It's probably the innocence of it, because you've lads coming in that are very willing to do absolutely everything. They've no baggage coming in with them. It's a different age. It's a development process. It's very enjoyable, number one, because all the units are really, really behind what you're trying to do, and they're all about doing the right thing. And again, it's a major part of their life going forward, and it's going to set them up as individuals from an early age.
From your own perspective, obviously, coming into a team that had won a couple of All-Irelands already, did you feel pressure that you had to deliver, that actually because we've seen down in Kerry, that team has rolled on for a number of years, and eventually starts to bring its own attention, and it's like, geez, I don't want to be the one that ends up being in charge when this record gets broken. No,
if that was the case, you wouldn't have done it last year, because, to be fair, they had 2-1 coming into last year, and to a different management team, different age. As I said 2 years ago, there was a different age. It was 18, it's now gone to 17. Now, no, that was relevant. You have a different bunch of players, different people. You're bringing your own buy-ins, your own individuality into any setup. We had a great management team for the Healy, Declan O'Brien, Keith Daniels, Kieran Kellan. We all had our own individual traits and all different things, and a different perspective on how we like things to be done. And look, it's all about, moving on from here and help them and educate them as best you can, and that's all it is.
And in terms of style of play, a lot of people really actually enjoy watching the minor games because there's definitely been a massive shift in tactical innovation over the last 15, 20 years, no more so than there has been in the senior game, but it's less pronounced in the minor games. There's still definitely an opportunity for players to show individual skills that maybe are less curtailed, shall we say, by sweeper systems and all that kind of stuff. What's that like to manage? Is it even more enjoyable to manage that because you can actually just ask the players to go out and express themselves?
Well, I suppose our first game against Kilkenny, you'd expect that you'd be encouraging that. Then we play Clare in their next game, and Clare play a sweeper system, which really threw us off sync and how to manage a team against that. We were lucky to beat Clare. Clare were very, very good, and they won by 2 points. Then we played Wexford in our third game, and you're back to David's bit of a sweeper. We probably understood our system better, and then Kilkenny was just 15 on 15, and as they dropped a man back, we were really on top of it. But I suppose we'd only 4 games, whereas the likes of Kilkenny, I think, had 9 or 10 games. Although, not being involved in the Leinster Championship or a Munster Championship meant that you had less games and less time to develop your systems and encourage and educate players at that high level. But it was just a joy to watch them, and we stood back and we said we got to give them the freedom of the pitch to understand and just maybe coax more than demand what should happen. And the lads then, they just developed themselves, and they just, and they took on situations that came and they made it better for themselves.
The goal just before half time on Sunday gave you a lot of breathing space. Did you feel comfortable in that second half? Because it certainly, watching the game, it really looked like your defence were on top, and every time the ball was going up to the forwards, they were in control as well. So it was a very controlled performance from a minor team. Generally in minor games like that, there's like a late goal and a bit of a comeback and a bit of a scare, but there was no sense of that from your team.
Well, you see, the first day we played Kilkenny, we were 12 points up, 2 minutes coming into half time, within 10 points up. Within 1.5 minutes in the second half, we were down to 5 points, and with 15 minutes gone, we were level. So I suppose that it nearly backfired in Kilkenny, that the first day of what happened the last day for us, if you understand what I'm saying, because we were guarded against that. But the penalty was a huge decision, because from 2 points up, you hear about, you were about soccer games there beforehand, going in at half time, the team talk was totally different from being 2 up to 5 up, and we were in a commanding position because we had hurled fairly well. But the whole dynamic of the game changed in that penalty, and it was fair play to Greg Thomas. He was having a difficult first half, and the way they were Marshall, and we got 2-2 the first time they played. They were really watching, but he won a great penalty, and then Sean Max took it in, and of course that really was a big game changer.
Brian, you've obviously been involved in management teams throughout the years, very successful at club. Like, there was a massive injection of passion into Westmeath when you were there as well, and now success with a minor team in Galway. It's quite the management CV you've put together. This is obviously something that you really love doing. What do you see in your own future?
I don't know. I don't look past. I was looking at my own future 3 years ago, and both my parents were alive. I would have thought differently. Things change. I'm just very, very grateful to the Galway County Board that I got a chance to come back, and I was helping the under-16s the last couple of years, because that's all I had time for in my life, was to just do maybe 3 or 4 hours a week. Now we won the under-16s last year with these bunch, John helped minors, and I don't look past that anymore. It's about development for Galway hurling and how we can do and help that, and at the moment that's what it is, and I'm very grateful to have that opportunity. And
is this a year-to-year thing, so you don't know if you'll be back next year?
Well, it depends. It depends, and then it's like any manager know what he's doing next year. I'd like to think so, but I have a great management team with me. We have a great structure. We have a great, we've 24 people within our back home team with this year's minors, and that's, we took it so seriously, and it was so enjoyable and such great fun, and it was a very, very enjoyable job with the Galway County Board and everyone involved in that, and I'm sure they'll sit down later on and we'll see where it goes.
Well, look, I don't know if you got to hear any of Tommy Walsh at the weekend, just talking about how it's the All-Ireland Final Day is a day for hurling people, not just from the counties that were involved. It's kind of a carnival for everybody who loves the sport. I think anybody who loves the sport was delighted to see you and that team have success at the weekend. It was great to see you back on a sideline on the big day, and long may it continue. Brian, great to talk to you again this morning.
I appreciate that, and it was an absolute privilege and to be there with Galway, and it was a privilege to be on the sideline for Westmeath and to be learning and developing and great friends up there, and I wish them all the luck, and I thank them for what they've done for me as well, and because it was a great honour to be on the biggest day of the year, to be involved in that in some small part way.
Well, listen, I hope it's not the last time we see you there, Brian. Good stuff. Thanks a million.
All best. Thank you very much.
Brian Hanley there, the manager of the successful Galway minor team that are the minor champions in the Electric Ireland Minor Hurling Championship this year. Definitely one of those people who is going to. We would have had him on before as the manager of Westmeath, and you'd think this is going to be like a 5-minute interview, and 15 minutes later he's still talking to you. He's infusing you with passion for Westmeath hurling, so his hurling credentials are right up there.
Yeah.